use
Yes.
VR. Yeah, that's a tricky question to answer, because I still feel as though we don't know enough yet to know where VR is going to fail us. So I think what we need to do, this is kind of a waffly answer, but I think we need to do more of the head-to-head comparisons when we can of real life and VR. I think, in my hands, the kinds of things that work really well in VR are, I'm going to call them reflexive, more or less automatic motor reactions to things. So here's a good example, and I milked this for years in grant applications. This thing that happened to us, we built some by we I mean a crack architecture graduate student did this for my lab. He built some beautiful models of residential interiors, and there was one interior. It was a modern design, and there was a kitchen, and of course, and in the kitchen there were these cupboards, and we could watch people duck underneath the cupboards to look at things like the sink. And so, this automatic motor reaction to what you would do if things were real. And to me, that's a hint as to what kinds of things VR might be most useful for when the visual environment triggers certain kinds of reflexive actions in us. Then those actions are likely to also take place to be the same in the real world and in VR. So the stuff that I was telling you about that I did with Robin Mazunder, one of the reasons I think that probably worked pretty well is because one of the reflexive reactions to tall buildings is to look up, and that happens just as well in VR as it does in the real world. So where you can duplicate those kinds of motor reactions to things, I think you're most likely to have success. But maybe not just there. I mean, we've tried other things. We've been off and on, and probably a little bit more on these days. We've been interested in awe experiences, and we found that they're really not easy to generate in virtual reality, except for the awe that might come from somebody who's never experienced immersive VR before, and then it's like, oh, this is really great. But these days that's more rare. So people who have some idea of how VR works, you can put them into a virtual. We built a fantastic virtual library, like a really impressive old style real library, and I know that the physical design would have been off the charts for awe responses, and we didn't get much in VR. So I think maybe some of that atmospheric stuff. We've tried other experiments too, being interested in architectural atmosphere, and they haven't gone as well as we might have liked. So that's some of the most important stuff. So understanding why that doesn't work as well is pretty important. And it might be the technology. I mean, it's still not all that fantastic an experience to wear one of those helmets for more than 15 minutes or so.